have a lot to say about how my 10-year-old nephew Riker was killed and everything that's happened after it. I haven't been able to make a video on it because we've been in the middle of a trial and the lawyers told us not to make any public social media posts about it. But that trial's over. And I'm not in the military, so I can say whatever the fuck I want. On February 16th, 2024, my brother, my sister-in-law, and my 3 nephews, who were 5, 8, and 10 at the time, were on the way to a bowling alley. A fucking bowling alley. Imagine that. When they approached the only intersection on the Marine Corps base they live on. They live in this tiny base in 29 Palms, California. It's called 29 Palms Marine Corps Base. Clever. They were approaching the only intersection on base. My brother was going the speed limit, following every traffic law. He had a green light. He proceeds forward, and a military cop slams into him, T-bones him. My 10-year-old nephew is killed instantly. He was so violently struck by this cop that he was basically internally decapitated. That is how violent this accident was. What we learned in the months following this accident, you know what? I'm calling it an incident. It's not even an accident. What I learned following this incident is truly, it's almost unfathomable that the Marine Corps has allowed such things to happen in their organizations. When they pride themselves on being the few, the proud, the Marine, the what? The Marine Corps is fucking, it's unfathomable that this is our military. What we learned is that on February 16th, 2024, the date of the accident, there was a gate runner. Okay, so if you've never been on a military base or you just don't know, when you get on a military base, you have to show an ID. You have to have a military ID. You have to have a reason to be on base. They don't just let anybody go on Marine Corps bases or military bases in general, right? So on February 16th, somebody pulls up to the gate and they just drive through it. They don't stop and show their ID. They just blow through the gate, right? The people guarding the gate call it in as a gate runner. And then all the cops on base get a call saying, oh, we have a gate runner over here. And everybody's responding. That sounds fair enough, right? Maybe you're thinking, oh, well, he was just responding to the call and it was a freak accident. Okay, well, I was on that train too for a little bit till I learned what happened. So we find out that the person who ran the gate is actually another cop. Imagine that. So turns out in 29 Palms, they pretty much do whatever the fuck they want. And if you're a cop and you're in the PMO organization, which is the cop basically organization, you just make your own rules. You run the base. Forget procedure, forget policy, forget security clearance. That shit don't matter. We're cops. We do what we want. That's the vibe in 29 Palms, right? So this cop pulls up to the gate, acknowledges his buddy, and keeps going through. Because apparently, that's something that's allowed there. Cops guard the gate, right? So if you pull up to a military base and you're handing your ID to somebody, you're handing your ID to a military cop. They are the gate guards. And in 29 Palms, if you're in the PMO organization, so you're a cop, you don't have to show your ID at the gate. You just acknowledge your buddy and you keep going. And they let everybody do it. If you're a PMO, if you're a cop, you don't have to follow the rules like everybody else. No, you make your own rules. So this cop pulled up to the gate, acknowledged his buddy, and kept driving like he has done 1,000 times before. Except this kid at the gate, we don't know if he just didn't recognize him. Maybe he was new to 29 Palms, didn't know that they do whatever the fuck they want there. Not exactly sure what happened there because the Marine Corps refuses to release the report or tell us the names of the gate runner and the gate guard. This is interesting, right? That they won't acknowledge that piece of the story, which is the beginning of this series of events. So if PMO wasn't allowed to do whatever the fuck they want, perhaps this would never have happened. Think about that. So he doesn't show his ID, which he's done a million times before. He blows through the gate. The kid at the gate doesn't recognize him or doesn't know what the fuck's going on, calls it in as a gate runner. Now, the cop that blew the gate, I mean, he didn't go through the gate and start running people over. He was going home. They pulled him over quickly, and I'm sure him and his buddies had a big fucking laugh about it. But again, I don't know because the Marine Corps won't release any of that information. They'll only give us the high level of what happened. Can't get the details because we have to protect those guys who broke the rules. So Christopher Widauff, oh, that's his name, by the way. Lance Corporal Christopher Widauff, one more time. Lance Corporal Christopher Widauff was the one who hit my family. He was responding to that call. He was all the way on the other side of the base. aware that there were other gates or other cops already responding that were near this gate, but he was like, oh, fuck it, I'm going to respond too. So he starts going over 70 miles per hour through base that has one intersection, just one. It's tiny, 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 tiny. One intersection with a speed limit of 35 miles per hour. My brother's approaching this one intersection on base, going 37 miles per hour. We have the black box data. His foot was not on the gas nor on the brake. So he was just coasting down the hill, basically. There's video of the accident where you can clearly see he had a green light the entirety of approaching the intersection, and entering the intersection, he had a green light. Here comes Christopher Widauff, going 72 miles per hour. 72 miles per hour. Okay. In a 35 mile per hour zone. He never once, per his black box, hit the brakes. He did not have his sirens blaring. He did not have his lights on. Or he might have had his lights on. Okay. In the broad daylight, oh my God, but he did not have his siren on. Nobody could hear him coming. There was no indication he was about to fucking bullet train through this intersection. Not one. And actually, right before impact on my brother's minivan, he had to swerve to avoid hitting somebody else, a colonel, which if you don't speak military like I don't, is a very high-ranking official. He had to swerve. The colonel swerved left, Christopher Widauff swerved right to avoid impact. And through all of that, he never hit his brakes. Goes through the intersection, never hits the brakes. When he impacts into the minivan, his foot was on his accelerator. He was accelerating. He showed no due regard entering that intersection, and he showed complete negligence when he never had his sirens on, and he did not survey his surroundings before blowing through the most popular stoplight, the only stoplight on base. Not only killing my nephew, but potentially killing many others that were around him. Now we fast forward, right? There's an investigation going on. They court-martial him, which means he's been charged. He had been charged with culpable negligence, think involuntary manslaughter, or negligence, think negligent homicide, right? One of them is like you have to prove he was purposely being negligent, knew he was being negligent, fucking went for it anyways. And then negligent homicide is just he acted negligence in the heat of a moment and it resulted in death. Okay? I thought we might have a jump to culpable, but at the very least, clear to anybody on any given day he was being negligent, right? So let's fast forward to July of this year, just a few months ago. My family learns through just looking at a document on a hearing that he had been promoted. Promoted. The United States Marine Corps promoted a man who was actively charged and a pending trial for the death of a 10-year-old boy. And when my family made a stink of it, because why wouldn't we? Because what the fuck? They said he was promoted because of the mental stress of the trial, and they thought a promotion would help him keep going. Huh? They did pull back his promotion. I don't know what the right military term is for it, but they took it away. And we later read in emails that were presented in trial, the only reason they took it from him is because they stated if the Frost family went public to the media, this could potentially be a shit show. So they weren't necessarily agreeing that they were wrong promoting him. They just didn't want us to talk about it. Fast forward to last week, we were in a week-long trial where all of this information was presented at trial. There was videos of the accident, black boxes of the accident, and a jury of his peers found him not guilty of all charges. They said he did not act negligent and there was nothing he could have done, including braking or having his sirens on, that could have prevented this accident. The Marine Corps has never acknowledged my family. They have never acknowledged Riker. They have never put out a statement about this accident. They had never put out a statement acknowledging the failings of the PMO organization on 29 Palms. They have never even just simply said a 10-year-old boy was killed on our base and we're looking into it. Not a single statement has been made. Nothing. But you know what they did do? They promoted Christopher Widauff. That's what they did. You know what else they did? They secured a not guilty verdict on a man who very clearly acted negligent. I don't think he woke up trying to kill somebody that day, but the fact of the matter is he did. He could have had his sirens on. He could have shown due regard, and I wouldn't be here making this video right now.